Do you know what dry food actually does to your cat when they eat it every single day? Most owners think it's just convenient and perfectly fine. But what's really going on inside their body is something most people have no idea about. It changes how their organs function, how they feel, even how they behave around the house. What starts happening might completely change the way you feed your cat. Here's what kicks in from day one. 1. Their body slowly runs dry without you noticing. Have you ever filled your cat's water bowl and watched it sit there untouched for hours? You might think they're just not thirsty, but the truth is much more complicated than that. Cats have an incredibly weak thirst drive. It's not a flaw, it's evolution. Their ancestors lived in desert environments where water sources were scarce, so they adapted to get almost all their moisture from the prey they hunted. A mouse is about 70% water. A bird is around the same. That's how a cat's body expects to hydrate. Through food, not through drinking. But here's where the problem starts. Dry kibble contains roughly 10% moisture, sometimes even less. That's it. So your cat is eating food that gives them almost no hydration, and their body isn't wired to make up the difference by drinking more water. They simply don't feel thirsty enough to compensate. Over time, this creates a state of chronic mild dehydration. Their kidneys have to work harder to concentrate urine because there's not enough water passing through the system. The urine becomes dense, acidic, and more likely to form crystals or stones. Especially in male cats, where the urethra is narrower and blockages can become life-threatening fast. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that cats on dry food diets consistently had lower water intake and more concentrated urine compared to those eating moisture-rich diets. This isn't about your cat being stubborn. It's about biology working against a food that was never designed with their natural needs in mind. So from day one of feeding dry food daily, your cat's hydration starts falling behind. And that quiet deficiency sets the stage for everything else we're about to cover. 2. Their weight creeps up in ways you won't connect to the bowl. Why do so many indoor cats end up overweight even when their owners swear they're not overfeeding? It's one of the most frustrating things cat owners deal with. You follow the feeding guide on the bag, you measure portions, you don't give table scraps, and still your cat gets heavier. The issue isn't portion size, it's what's inside the food. Dry kibble is loaded with carbohydrates. Even premium brands often contain 30 to 50% carbs, and cats, as obligate carnivores, have almost zero evolutionary need for that. Their bodies are designed to run on protein and fat from animal tissue. Carbohydrates aren't part of the equation. When a cat eats a high-carb diet, their body doesn't know what to do with all that glucose. They can't burn it efficiently for energy like a human or a dog might, so most of it gets converted and stored as fat. It's not about willpower, it's about metabolism. On top of that, dry food is calorie-dense. A small cup of kibble can pack more calories than a much larger portion of wet food because all the moisture has been removed. Your cat eats what looks like a reasonable amount, but they're taking in way more energy than their body needs. And because kibble is low in moisture and doesn't stretch the stomach much, it also doesn't trigger strong satiety signals. Your cat finishes their meal and still feels like something's missing. So they beg, they scavenge, they become obsessed with food. Research from the University of California, Davis found that cats fed dry diets were significantly more likely to become overweight or obese compared to those on higher moisture, higher protein diets. The food itself was driving the weight gain, not the cat's behavior. So if your cat keeps gaining weight and you can't figure out why, it might not be about how much they're eating. It might be about the fact that dry food was never designed to keep a carnivore lean. 3. Their teeth don't get cleaner, they just get older. One of the biggest myths in cat feeding is that dry food cleans teeth. You've probably heard it from a vet, a pet store employee, or even a kibble commercial. The idea is that the crunch scrapes away plaque and keeps their mouth healthy. It sounds logical, but it's not true. Most cats don't chew kibble the way the myth suggests. They bite down just enough to crack it, then swallow. There's barely any scraping action happening at all. And even when there is, it only affects the very tip of the tooth. The places where plaque actually builds up, along the gum line and between teeth, never get touched. A study published in the Journal of Veterinary Dentistry compared cats on dry food to those on other diets and found no significant difference in tartar accumulation. The kibble wasn't preventing dental disease. It was just sitting in the bowl looking crunchy. What actually causes dental problems in cats is genetics, lack of oral care, and the same bacteria that affect any animal's teeth over time. Dry food doesn't address any of that. Meanwhile, kibble leaves a starchy residue in the mouth. And because cats don't produce much saliva compared to other animals, that residue can sit there and actually contribute to plaque formation instead of preventing it. If you want to protect your cat's teeth, the real solution is regular brushing, dental treats designed for actual cleaning, or professional cleanings when needed. Dry food isn't doing the job. It's just giving you a false sense of security while the problem quietly builds underneath. 4. Their energy crashes and you blame their age. Does your cat sleep all day? Do they seem uninterested in playing, even with their favorite toys? Most owners assume that's just what cats do, or they chalk it up to age. But what if your cat isn't lazy or old? What if they're just running on the wrong fuel? Cats are designed to eat small, protein-rich meals throughout the day. In the wild, they'd hunt multiple times, eating prey that's high in fat and protein with almost no carbs. Each meal gives them a quick burst of usable energy, then they rest and hunt again. It's a natural cycle. Dry food flips that completely. The high carb content causes blood sugar to spike after eating, then crash a few hours later. Your cat might seem alert right after a meal, but then they sink into a sluggish, low-energy state for the rest of the day. They're not getting sustained energy, they're riding a glucose roller coaster. And because their body isn't efficient at turning carbs into fuel, a lot of that energy just never arrives. They feel tired, they sleep more, they stop engaging with their environment. You might think it's normal, but it's not. It's nutritional fatigue. A study in the Journal of Animal Physiology and Animal Nutrition found that cats on high-protein, low-carbohydrate diets showed increased activity levels and more engagement in play compared to those on carb-heavy dry diets. The difference wasn't the cat. It was the food. So if your cat used to be playful and curious, but now just naps in the same spot all day, don't assume it's just aging. It might be that their diet is quietly draining the energy they're supposed to have. 5. The hidden ingredient you're feeding without knowing it. Here's the part most cat owners never think about. And honestly, it's the one that bothers me the most. When you feed dry food daily, you're not just feeding your cat meat and grains. You're feeding them something else. Something that doesn't appear on the ingredient list in a way that makes sense. Preservatives, fillers, and plant-based proteins that bulk up the formula without providing what a carnivore actually needs. Dry kibble has to stay shelf-stable for months, sometimes over a year. That doesn't happen naturally. It requires chemical preservatives, even in brands that claim to be natural. Some use safer options like mixed tocopherols. Others rely on synthetic compounds like BHA or BHT, which have been flagged in some studies as potentially harmful over long-term exposure. Then there's the protein source. A lot of dry foods list things like corn gluten meal, soy protein isolate, or pea protein. These aren't animal proteins. They're cheap fillers used to hit the protein percentage on the label without using actual meat. But your cat's body can't process plant protein the way it processes animal protein. The amino acid profile is incomplete. The bioavailability is lower. It looks like protein on paper, but it doesn't work like protein in your cat's system. Over time, feeding a diet that's built on fillers and held together with preservatives puts stress on organs that were designed to process fresh, whole prey. The liver has to detoxify what doesn't belong. The digestive system has to work harder to extract nutrition from ingredients it wasn't built to handle. And because this all happens slowly, you don't notice it. Until one day, your cat's blood work comes back off. Or they develop a chronic condition that seems to come out of nowhere. I'm not saying dry food will poison your cat overnight, but feeding it every single day, for years, means exposing them to ingredients their body was never meant to run on. And that's a risk most owners don't even realize they're taking.